Welcome to Mathematics for Principles of Economics. The topic of this video is how do we measure consumer surplus?
The math behind the economics is measuring the area of a right triangle.
Remember that consumer surplus tells us the difference between what we're willing to pay for something, which is given by the demand curve, and what we have to pay for it, which is given by the market price. We're going to use the simplifying assumption that our supply and demand curves are linear. So in this graph, consumer surplus is given by the area C, the triangle. So how do we measure this triangle area C?
In order to do so, we're going to have a formula for measuring the area of a triangle. And in order to do so, the easiest way to think about this is to notice that a triangle is simply half of a rectangle. So if we know how to find the area of a rectangle, we can take that area and divide it by 2. So here is a right triangle, and let's say we need 2 measurements in order to find the area. Let's call this one h for height, and let's call this length here b for base. And then again, remembering that we actually have a rectangle here in the background, that's a little shady rectangle showing, we know that the area for the triangle is going to be 1/2 the area for the rectangle. Let me get this piece of this rectangle out of the way, and we can remember then that we have that the area of the triangle is going to be 1/2 the area of the rectangle, which would be height times base. I can write these in either order, 1/2 base times height. Both of these give me the formula for the area of a right triangle, so it's necessary that it has a right angle there. So let's do one particular example. Let's say that I have a triangle here, and let's say that its height is 4, and perhaps its base is 6. What would be the area of that triangle? Well, the formula for the area of a right triangle is 1/2 the base, which is 6, and the height, which is 4. Oops. This is a 4. And so what would I have? I would have 1/2 times 24, which is 12. So that would be the area of this right triangle. In the economic setting, oftentimes we're going to have a right triangle represented geometrically in some sort of graph, and in that case what we'll need is still the 2 measurements for the triangle, and we can calculate those measurements. We can find those measurements by looking at my triangle here. I see that the height to this point, how far up do I go, is 2, and how far over do I go? It's 3, and so the area of this triangle here, if that's what we were interested in, would be 1/2 2 times 3, which is 3. There's that triangle.
Okay, let's answer the question that we looked at earlier, how to find the area C, which would represent consumer surplus in this diagram. So we know the area is 1/2 the base times the height. The base of this triangle is 40 from the origin over to the point 40 on the horizontal axis, and the height is 1600, the difference between 3600 and 2000. So 1/2 40 times 1600, or 1/2 of 6400, gives us consumer surplus of 3200. What are some other times when we need to find the area of triangles in economics? Producer surplus, welfare losses from taxes, and welfare losses from other interferences with market equilibrium can also be measured by triangles.
Now we've seen how to use the math behind the economics to measure consumer surplus. Thank you so much for listening.